What is it that you really like to do?
Each.
Ever wondered what your parents actually ate to survive? From fried green tomatoes to sauerkraut on white bread, these humble creations fed hungry families when times were lean, and some might just surprise you. Number 30. Fried egg sandwich. What can you do with one egg, a splash of oil, and 2 tired slices of bread? In the mid-19th century, East London factory goers grabbed simple fried egg bap sandwiches at morning carts. They were quick, warm, and cheap enough to fuel a long shift. Across the Atlantic, American railroad laborers did the same, wrapping fried eggs in wax paper, sometimes even creating an early Denver sandwich by adding veggies in homage to egg foo young. Imagine a weary mom in, say, 1908 flipping a single egg into a hot pan, pressing it in between 2 floppy bread slices. That sizzle and simplicity was survival in every bite. Number 29. A mustard and cucumber sandwich. Think of a muggy summer in late Victorian England. Meat's scarce, but mustard and garden cucumbers are cheap enough to pretend you're having a treat. This wasn't the dainty tea table version. This was rub mustard on stale bread, toss in some cucumber slices, and hold on to hope. Mustard was mass-produced by brands like Keen's in the 19th century, added zest where none otherwise existed. Cucumbers, once posh, had flooded working-class tables as hothouse cultivation spread in early 1900s Britain. By then, a mustard cucumber bite wasn't fancy, but it was cool, crunchy, and oddly defiant. You take that bite and you got flavor, texture, and a little laugh in your mouth, even when everything tastes like just barely enough.
Just decent amount spread on what's going to be the bottom slice of bread.
Number 28. Bologna sandwich. Roll back to the Dust Bowl in the Great Depression. If your fridge was empty, a slice of bologna on white bread with mustard was your fancy lunch. Bologna, a humble cousin of Italian mortadella, became a lifesaver. Well, thanks to mass-produced vacuum-sealed packagings by companies like Oscar Mayer in the 1920s and 30s. It wasn't just a kid's lunchbox classic. Schools and even government-run programs like the Bercero labor system served it up for its cheap protein punch and shelf life. Fry it and curl the edges into little flavor-packed crisps, just enough of a crunch to make you forget how broke you really were. Now, it's sarcastic, sure, but this floppy pink slice once felt like a darn steak. Number 27. Molasses sandwich. If you're even wondering what molasses even is, it's that thick, dark syrup leftover from making sugar cheered by providers but maligned by dentists. In both 19th century Atlantic Canada and Depression-era America, it was far cheaper than refined sugar and miraculously eaten by the spoonful on bread when nothing else could even sweeten the day. The Atlantic Canadian historian even calls it a poor man's meal, the kind of thing that filled you when your pantry was otherwise as empty as your hope. Daydream about dipping white bread in dense, stick-to-your-jaw molasses, and it was the closest thing to candy some kids got. A slow-moving sugar bomb that glued memories to your teeth and maybe even to your soul. Number 26. Sauerkraut sandwich. Let's say sauerkraut, that tangy, fermented cabbage that started in ancient China over 2,000 years ago, made its way to medieval Germany, and then became a winter survival staple when fresh veggies vanished in the cold months. By the 1800s, German coal miners and peasants carried sauerkraut for its long shelf life and vitamin C punch. Scurvy didn't even stand a chance, okay? Tuck those crisp, sour strands into thick rye or white bread. No fancy mustard, just a gut-friendly zing that screamed, "We're still upright and we've got taste."
Did you know that pickles ain't nothing but a sour cucumber?
Yes, I knew that.
Number 25. Peanut butter and pickle sandwich. Think PB and pickles would never hit it off? Think again. During the 1930s Great Depression, it wasn't about haute cuisine. It was about using 2 long-lasting pantry staples to stretch meals. Peanut butter, cheap and calorie-rich, paired with pickles, often bread and butter, or homemade, combined sticky and tangy into something bizarrely satisfying. New York Times dubbed it a thrifty and unacknowledged American classic, calling the crunchy bite of pickle a little irony against peanut butter's richness. Not exactly Michelin star, but a survivor's bite with a mischievous twist and enough flavor to make you smirk. Number 24. Cold roast potato sandwich. Leftovers were never a tragedy in a thrifty kitchen, especially if yesterday's roast potatoes made a comeback between two slices of bread. In post-war Britain and Ireland, potatoes were the backbone of every meal, so cold slices sprinkled with salt or doused in malt vinegar if you were feeling posh became an easy worker's lunch. Farmers often packed them for the fields, dense carbs for long hours of labor, no reheating needed. In the 1950s Belfast, dock workers called it the lunch you could drop in the mud, dust off, and still eat. Not glamorous, but it kept bellies full and waste to a minimum. A true poor man's innovation. Number 23. Radish and salt sandwich. Bite into a radish and you get that peppery snap that wakes you up faster than coffee. In early 20th century Eastern European immigrant kitchens, radishes were dirt cheap, easy to grow, and ready in weeks, not months. Slice them thin, lay them over buttered bread, sprinkle them with salt, and you got a working-class delicacy that cost pennies. In Poland, this was a springtime ritual, part of that open-faced kanapka tradition, and in American mining towns, it was just Tuesday's lunch without the meat or sauce. Some called it poor man's horseradish. Others just called it fresh. Either way, it was proof you didn't need wealth to eat something with attitude. Number 22. Lettuce and mayo sandwich. Sometimes light was not a healthy choice. It was all the kitchen had left. In mid-century America, iceberg lettuce was cheap. It lasted weeks in the icebox and added that crisp crunch when meat was well out of reach. You just have to slather mayo on white bread, tuck in a few leaves, and you have a sandwich that at least sounds fresh. A Reddit discussion even dug up a recipe from Miss Seeley's cookbook in 1902 for a lettuce and mayonnaise sandwich, proving it had been around declared well before the 1950s. The taste, creamy, crisp, and just about as filling as a polite handshake. Would you take a big bite or just keep looking for the meat? Number 21. Fried green tomato sandwich. In the American South, green tomatoes weren't a delicacy. They were what you picked when the frost was coming and the red ones never had a chance to ripen. Just slice them in thick, coat them in cornmeal, fry until golden, and slide them between slices of bread with a touch of mayo or mustard. These sandwiches may scream Southern charm today, but fried green tomatoes actually have roots in 19th century Midwestern cookbooks and only became a Southern icon after the 90s hit film brought them into the spotlight. It was resourcefulness on a plate and in your hands. Ever had one, or is this still on your maybe one day list? Number 20. Cornbread and collard green sandwich. Before soul food was celebrated, it was simply survival. In rural Southern kitchens, collard greens were boiled low and slow with whatever seasoning scraps you had. Maybe a ham hock if you were lucky. Cornbread was baked densely and slightly crumbly, becoming the bread for a sandwich when white loaf bread was a luxury. After piling the greens between two slabs of cornbread, you had a filling, portable lunch that traveled from the fields to the factory floor. It was cheap, yes, but it also carried the taste of home memory and making do. Now, tell me, would you eat this with your hands or go full fork and knife?
Okay, let's give this banana sandwich with mayonnaise a go.
Number 19. Banana and mayonnaise sandwich. A curious marriage of sweet and savory, the banana and mayo sandwich found its fame in the American South during the early to mid-20th century. It was quick and didn't require cooking, a godsend during the Depression and lean post-war years. They just sliced these ripe bananas and laid them on soft white bread, slathered with mayonnaise and sometimes topped with a sprinkle of sugar for extra indulgence. Elvis Presley himself was known to love a fried variant, swapping mayo for peanut butter, but the plain mayo version was humbler and far more common in modest homes. It was the taste of stretching a grocery budget until it squeaked. Number 18. Fried bologna and mustard sandwich. Ever wonder how something as humble as bologna became a fried delicacy in so many homes? Back in the 40s through the 70s, this was working man's lunch meat that was able to last for weeks in the fridge. Frying it gave each slice a crispy curled edge, turning a basic cold cut into a hot savory treat. A sizzling round of bologna slapped between white bread and a sharp smear of yellow mustard made for a sandwich that could keep you going all day. For some, it's still the taste of Saturday afternoons, cast iron skillet crackling while the radio hummed in the background. Number 17. Egg salad sandwich, powdered egg. Okay, now what did they do when fresh eggs are scarce but they still crave that creamy, tangy egg salad? During the rationing years of the 1940s, the answer came in a tin. Powdered eggs. Supplied by the US and British governments, these dehydrated eggs could be whisked with water and cooked just like the real thing. Housewives would mash the reconstituted eggs with a dollop of mayonnaise, a pinch of mustard, and maybe even some chopped celery if the garden was kind. This was a sandwich that kept protein on the table when the hens couldn't. Some swore it tasted close enough, while others, let's just say, prayed for the day that real eggs came back. Number 16. Cream cheese and jelly sandwich. Sweet or savory, why choose when you can confuse your taste buds? Back in the early to mid-1900s, cream cheese wasn't just for bagels. Families would smear it on soft white bread, then layer on a glossy swipe of fruit jelly. Grape, strawberry, even apple, whatever was cheap and available from the pantry. The combo hit that odd balance of tangy creaminess and sticky sweetness, perfect for kids' lunchboxes or just a quick bite before work. But here's the real head-scratcher. Was this genius or just desperation dressed up in a sandwich? For many, it was comfort in a time of limits. For others, it was something you politely forgot if it was ever served. Number 15. The French fry sandwich. We've all had French fries next to our burgers, but stuffing them inside the bread, that's a whole other level of carb-on-carb glory. Known in some working-class towns as a chip buddy in the UK or just a fry sandwich stateside, this was the ultimate cheap filler with thick slices of white bread, a soft roll cradled in a pile of hot salted fries with a squeeze of ketchup or vinegar. It didn't need to be fancy though, and it wasn't even. And let's be honest, nothing says I don't care about my diet quite like this beautiful potato-baked creation. Number 14. Cold meatloaf sandwich. It might sound like something you'd shove in the back of your fridge, forgotten, but cold meatloaf on bread was a lunchtime hero in many homes. This wasn't about gourmet cuts or fancy sauces. It was about using leftovers and making them work. It was really popular in mid-century America and was homegrown stick-to-your-ribs levels of comfort. And honestly, some would argue it was better cold than fresh. Number 13. Potted meat sandwich. In lean times, preservation wasn't just smart, it was necessary. That's where potted meat stepped in, carrying his cooked meat tightly packed into a pot and sealed with cooling fat to lock out spoilage. Before refrigeration, generations used it to keep protein edible through months of hard living. By the 20th century, commercially canned versions, think under-the-radar tins of mystery meat paste, became pantry staples, especially when fresh meat was not an option. Not elegant, of course, but the texture and taste do have a reputation. Number 12. Cheese and onion sandwich. This is just a classic combo. In the UK, for generations, it had been the working person's go-to. The grated cheddar was often mixed with red Leicester and folded into mayo and finely diced raw onion. It's so ubiquitous that supermarket meal deals often feature it as the budget-friendly star. And then there's even workplace nostalgia. London firefighters remember mandatory cheese and onion sandwiches during their 11 a.m. stand-easy breaks. Number 11. Green pepper and salt sandwich. When food budgets were nil, simplicity turned into art. In the Mississippi Delta parlors and working kitchens of the early 20th century, folks layered impossibly thin green pepper slices between buttered bread, sprinkling salt to bring out a sneaky crunch and pop of taste, served on very thin bread, as one of the United Daughters of Confederacy cookbook described it. This wasn't gourmet, it was poetry in salt and green bite, a humble nod to freshness when the pantry looked empty. A sandwich that whispered, "We're still cooking with what's here." Number 10. Tomato and mayo sandwich. You know that moment when a juicy tomato meets creamy mayo on soft bread and suddenly summer makes sense? In the South, this was summer on a plate. Newspaper archives point to a tomato sandwich mentioned in the Virginia Chronicle back in 1911, alongside watermelon and iced tea, proof that it was already a seasonal ritual. By the mid-century, this simple combo of white bread, fresh garden tomato, mayo, salt, and pepper was a Southern style beloved for being quick, light, and pure nostalgia. Some old-school versions even swear by Duke's mayonnaise for that tangy kick. Number 9. Bologna and relish sandwich. Take humble bologna, slice it thin, then stir in sweet pickle relish, and you've got a Midwest recipe born out of making every bite count. Often transformed into a spread or bologna salad, this sandwich became a kitchen staple because that salty meat and tangy relish combo stretched a pound into multiple meals. In cocktail party lore, folks raved about bologna salad as surprisingly good, even comparing it to ham salad with a nostalgic wink. This was the kind of clever thinking that saved budgets and lunches, a real kitchen hero when you needed flavor on a dime. Number 8. Scrapple sandwich. Scrapple sandwich is a hearty loaf of pork scraps, offal, and seasonings thickened with cornmeal or buckwheat and traditionally shaped into loaves by Pennsylvania Dutch families in the 17th and 18th century to avoid waste. As it cooled, it was fried and sliced until crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. When pressed between slices of bread, perhaps with a little ketchup or syrup, it turned spare ingredients into a warm, filling lunch. Brands like Haberset were mass-producing it to meet demand by the mid-1800s. Whether you call it Scrapple or everything but the oink, this regional oddball has remained a survival staple, controversial texture and all. Number 7. Egg and tomato sandwich. Eggs and tomatoes, a classic duo, but pairing them in a sandwich has roots in simple, practical kitchens. In Britain and parts of the U.S., the combination was a humble way to get protein and freshness without the fuss. Soft-boiled or sliced hard-boiled eggs paired with thin tomato slices and seasoned with a pinch of salt and pepper were layered on buttery bread. The sandwich was popular with workers and school kids alike, easy to prepare and filling and perfect for those days when meat was scarce or safe for later meals. Number 6. Butter and pepper sandwich. Sometimes the simplest things carry the most flavor. The butter and pepper sandwich was a modest staple in many households, especially when ingredients were scarce. Just a thick spread of creamy butter on fresh bread dusted generously with black pepper brought a surprising punch to an otherwise plain old bite. In places where spices were precious or rationed, this combination was a small luxury. It was common in European kitchens and carried over to immigrant families in the U.S., proving that sometimes all you needed was a bit of fat and spice to turn bread into something memorable. Number 5. Potato chip sandwich. Crunchy, salted, and unexpected, potato chips between slices of bread might sound like a guilty pleasure today, but it's actually been a modest favorite for decades. Around the mid-20th century's American homes, this quick snack stretched a plain sandwich and added a satisfying crunch without the extra effort. Whether it was plain salted or tangy barbecue, the chips added texture and flavor, making simple bread more exciting. It was convenient and comfort wrapped into a salty, crispy package. Number 4. Fried liver sandwich. The liver in these sandwiches typically came from cows or pigs, the low-cut cusps that packed a nutritional punch when other meats were scarce. In many wage earners and immigrant communities, in the early to mid-20th centuries, fried liver was sliced thin, seasoned, and then pan-fried to make more palatable. It became an affordable meal. Despite its strong flavor and reputation as poor man's meat, liver was valued for being rich in iron and vitamins. The sandwich was a practical choice and a way to avoid waste in tough times. Number 3. Rice sandwich. Literally a sandwich made with rice. You're not imagining things. In many parts of Asia, leftover rice wasn't just a side, it was sometimes the main event inside bread. During times of scarcity or when stretching meals was crucial, sticky rice was stuffed between slices of bread. Now, it might sound unusual to our Western ears, but it was a practical way to combine carbs for a filling lunch. If you think sandwiches have to be all meat or cheese, this one throws that rule out the window. Number 2. Bologna and onion sandwich. Alright, till here, we all guessed bologna was the everyman's meat, and when paired with sharp raw onions, it transformed into something that was punchy and satisfying. This combo was common in the Midwestern and Southern households throughout the 20th century, where budgets were tight but the hunger was real. Nothing ornate here, just pure fuel with an edge, arriving with hunger and purpose. Number 1. Pickled beet and cream cheese sandwich. This one's a love story between tangy and smooth. Pickled beets have long been a staple of European immigrant kitchens, prized for their ability to add vibrant color and a punch of sweet-sour flavor to any dish. When paired with creamy, mild cream cheese, this sandwich brought a surpassing freshness to simple bread. In those tougher times, the combo wasn't just about taste, it was a way to brighten up a plain lunch and stretch ingredients further. The contrast of sharp pickled beets with the mellow richness of cream cheese made it a favorite among those looking for a flavorful twist without the meat. And there you have it, a full parade of sandwiches that survived wars, rationing, and questionable taste buds. Which one would you actually eat, and which one's straight up crime against bread? Let us know in the comments. Oh, and like, subscribe, and share, because this bizarre journey deserves way more victims, viewers.